Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Deconstructing the Home Show. We've been out in the field running around a lot and we're going to get to that a little bit later on. But first I wanted to do and talk through a little bit of something that I think is usually confused and not fully understood, and something that I didn't fully understand when I got going in this business. And that question is, how much are you actually making on a flip house? I think the assumption is that when you see a big check, 40, 50, 30, even $30,000, it's a big check, 30 to all the way up to $100,000, which is pretty much the range I would say on most flips that anyone does, that, oh my gosh, just made a ton of money. But the thing you need to factor in is, well, there's a lot of things you got to factor in. That's what we're going to get into. So real quick, so I'm holding up two closing HUD statements from a house that I fairly recently rehabbed and sold. And one is the purchase HUD and one is the sales HUD. And I'm going to give you the exact numbers on this particular deal and kind of walk through with you what this actually made me at the end of the day. So I purchased this house for $83,767 and sold it for $220,000. Sounds like great numbers at the end of the day. I did make great money on this flip, but the initial assumption that you made over $100,000 isn't exactly correct. So there's obviously the three basic numbers that are fairly easy to calculate. These papers are slipping all over the place. The three basic numbers that are easy to calculate obviously are the purchase price, what you're going to sell the house for, and how much you're going to rehab this house for. Those are the easiest numbers, the three quickest, easiest to figure out. And that's just the tip of the iceberg, unfortunately, for pulling down your profits. So you have those three numbers, obviously purchase, the rehab cost, and then the ARV, which is the after repair value or the sales price. So those three numbers, I would say probably the next biggest number, the next two largest numbers are going to be whatever your financing / holding costs are. And depending on whether you're working with a private investor, a bank, another form of lending institution, your mom, your family, whatever it is, there's most likely going to be a cost of financing. And even if you're buying it cash, you really should try and factor in the opportunity cost of using cash, because if your cash is invested in this flip, that's the only thing it can be invested in until you sell it. So without using leverage, there's a cost to using leverage. Obviously, you're paying to use someone else's money. But there's actually also a cost to not using leverage, because you are now completely tied up and not able to do anything else with your money until that property is sold. But I would say the fourth most important thing for you to calculate is your financing costs. And we kind of went over what that is, obviously. For this particular deal, I had a private investor working with me on this deal. This is a friend of mine, and I gave him a really good split of 50% of the profits. So I didn't have to bring any money to the table on this particular deal, but I used the credibility I have for having done a number of houses before, and I had my capital tied up in other deals, so I couldn't have done this deal unless I had someone quickly and readily available who could pay cash for the entire project, the rehab, the purchase and the rehab of this property. My friend was able to do that, so we made a great deal. He was happy and I was happy, because 50% of nothing is a lot better than 100% of nothing. I didn't make that up, but it's a great quote. You should all remember it. So financing cost is obviously pretty expensive. So now, whatever that profit was, grab my little phone here. So again, the first numbers you see are whoop-de-doo. I guess we should talk about how much I paid to rehab this house. The cost of this rehabbing this house, if I recall correctly, and I don't have the final budget in front of me, was around $65,000 is what it cost to rehab this house. So you have $65,000. We have the purchase of $83,767, and we sold it for $220,000. And the financing, half of that profit goes to my investor. And this is a fairly typical style deal that you're going to be seeing. So we're going to take $220,000, we're going to minus it, subtract the purchase price, the $83,767. So we're down to $136,000. Then you're taking out another $65,000 for the rehab. We're down to 71, 20, 33. Then I have to divide this number in half. Actually, I'm not going to divide in half yet, but this number, whatever this final number is, will have to be divided in half because half goes to my investor on this particular project. Other numbers you need to calculate. Probably the next largest number is going to be number 5, your real estate costs. You got to get a realtor, most likely, to help you sell these flips when you get them done. So you're going to have real estate costs. In most markets, that's going to be 3% on the buy. Well, you're not going to pay that, but you're basically going to pay 3% on the buy and 3% on the sale. So you're going to pay 6% of this final number is going to get paid off in real estate costs. So remember, we were at that 71. That's actually not completely correct because we have not factored in our real estate costs yet. So 220,000 times 0.06 gives us $13,200 of real estate costs. 13,200. So we got to take another, out of that 71,000, we have to subtract another $13,200. So we're now down to $57,800. And this can be worked out differently. A lot of the times, if you're an investor full-time, you can go to a good realtor and still procure the services of a good realtor by saying, hey, listen, I'm going to be doing a lot of homes. There's not going to be all this back and forth and you're going to have guaranteed listings, which is extremely attractive to a realtor. I am still a licensed broker, but did real estate full-time and help represent people. And if someone came to me with this deal, I would absolutely cut them a deal. And I don't know what sort of deal you can cut, whether that's 1 or 2%. You're going to be paying the 3% on the sale. Pretty much non-negotiable unless you specifically put that in there, but that can hurt your chances of selling the house, some, because some realtors don't want to show it if there's a discounted commission that they're being forced to take by you. So most likely you will be paying the 3%, but you should be able to get a point or two off of your side of it. So this number may be 4 or 5% at the end of the day, but I'm just talking rough numbers. This is the things you need to be thinking about. So you have these numbers. The other thing you got to talk and think about are prorated taxes. You won't necessarily see this cost, but this will come out of your bottom line, because if you own a home for 6 months, it costs $5,000 a year in taxes. Your cost of that is going to be the $2,500 that will get prorated on one side or the other, whether you prepaid that when you purchase the home and then you get some of your money back, or if part of that goes to whoever is buying the home and then will be writing that $5,000 check, the taxes will be prorated. So you have a cost of taxes. That's something that needs to be calculated. Another cost that a lot of people don't think about are utilities while you own the home. You got to pay for the utilities. In San Antonio, that's CPS and SALS for water. So you'll be paying utilities, CPS and SALS. They will be on your back. I would say a very easy calculation. Again, if you're owning the home for 6 months, I would say you're probably going to pay $100 of fees to SALS per month, to CPS for the energy, and probably at least $50 to SALS depending on how much you're using. So that's another another $300, that's another $900 potentially in CPS and SALS fees that you need to calculate when you're calculating your bottom line. Another thing you got to calculate is insurance. You got to have your homes insured. If you don't have insurance, you're at a massive amount of risk and pretty much no lender's going to work with you, and you shouldn't do it. Don't do it. Bad deal. Insurance usually going to cost you between $100 and $150 a month. So calculate another just roughly $900 in insurance, and that's conservative. I think I usually pay closer to $1,000 to $1,500 for a lot of these policies I'm getting per house. That's another cost. Potentially security. If you need to have a security system in the house, if there's potentially stuff is stolen or there's vandalism to your properties, you're going to be, unless that's over a number, usually I keep the deductibles on my insurance policies high because usually I don't use them. But but that means you're going to cover anything under that deductible. So if you have a $3,000 deductible, you got $3,000 worth of stuff that can get stolen. That's coming right out of your pocket. So again, this is to kind of give a little bit more of a realistic picture, and then obviously there's the holding time. So again, 6 months is a very reasonable amount of time. I've gotten some done sooner, some have taken longer. So I think 6 months though is a good rule of thumb. If you buy a house, it takes 3 months to rehab it, 3.5 months to rehab it. You put it on the market, it's on the market for 30 days. Closing takes 30 to 45 days. You'll be at 6 months really quickly before you actually have a project done and sold. So just going back through our numbers here, if we have $220,000, $13,000 has to come off for realtor fees. We purchased the property for $87,000. and we put $65,000 into it. And then you got another, let's see, $1,000 here, $1,000 here, 6 months of holding costs, taxes, let's just say, another $3,000 here, minus $3,000 here, we're down to $52,000. That has to get split 50-50 in this particular deal with my investor, divided by 2, then we're at $26,000. Divide $26,000 by 6 months, you only get $4,333 a month, which obviously doesn't sound nearly as exciting as the 70-something thousand that we originally talked about when you're, thinking about factoring in your numbers. And this is not to say this doesn't make money. This makes plenty of money, and I think there's a huge value that comes with scaling. Once you have 3 or 4 houses going at the same time, you're not going to need to spend necessarily your entire 30 days every single month working on this one house. So if you can have 2 or 3 houses done a month, now that $4,000 goes to 8 to 12 to 16 real quickly. So you can make fantastic money, and there's a lot of depreciation and tax benefits with doing real estate as well. But this is just to give a little bit more of a realistic picture of what these numbers actually look like. And when you see someone doing this and you think, oh, well, that's easy, I'll make a ton of money, calculate this stuff in there before you just assume that this is going to be this insanely lucrative deal. Everyone needs a little perspective. Hope this wasn't a Debbie Downer. I'm obviously still doing it and making money, and you can too.